Welcome to sunny Arizona. Can you all hear me? I want to give you a setting for what's going on here in Arizona and our Sangha in general. 5 days ago, I was walking to the bathroom in the front room of our house. We have a tile floor. And I was in a hurry. And as I stepped forward with my right foot and stepped down, my foot began sliding forward. I had stepped on some cat puke in the dark. And my right foot continued to go forward while my left foot continued to stay in one place. And as I was sliding forward, I thought, this is an interesting sensation. What's going to happen next? I remember thinking that. Well, what happened is I sank to the floor on the right-hand side and hit my shoulder, and my leg had been stretched immensely, sort of pulling the hamstring muscle. And after I hit the floor, I said to myself, what's damaged? Is anything broken? So I searched my body for tears, rips, breaks. I didn't hear anything break. But when I tried to get up, my right shoulder wouldn't work. So I yelled out for Karima. The guys were not here at the time. And she came and stood there, concerned, but couldn't do anything. And I couldn't get up. I must have laid there 10 minutes before I felt, well, maybe my leg has recovered enough to support my weight, and it didn't. So I shuffled on my ass all the way to the den area, and my chair, and I had Karima go behind the chair while I lifted myself in place just with the use of my legs. I recovered in about a day, where I could walk around again without a walker. But then on Friday, I was feeling miserable. I felt horrible. So we went to see my doctor. I had an appointment, all three of us, Max, Michael, and myself. And turned out my blood pressure was 177/88. And I felt awful. So I saw him, and he gave me 3 shots in the ass. We're in the 2 weeks away from moving. Max and Michael have been helping the renter who had been in one house move to another of my houses. I have 2 houses, small ones, while we move into the bigger house that they had been in. So we had to empty my mother's house in order for them to get the renters to get into my mother's house. And the old house, or the renter's house, had to be cleared out so that a tile floor could be put in, because Karima insisted on having a tile floor before we moved in. On top of that, rain had damaged the roof and leaked onto the drywall, and there's about $1,000 worth of drywall damage to be done. The drywall hasn't been done, the tile has not been received, and we're 2 weeks away from moving. And Michael and Max are thoroughly exhausted from all the work they've been doing, moving furniture and packing here, as well as moving the renter and helping get the house ready for a house sale, which took place a few weeks ago for my mother's items that we haven't used. Today, the effects of the shots have worn off. I feel shitty again. I can feel the blood pressure up. But the blood tests have to be scheduled for Monday because we got there too late on Friday to see the doctor, and the phlebotomy aspect of his practice had already closed down. Now, right now, besides the stress of moving, to this new house, which is my old house, getting the floor in, getting the drywall in, getting the roof done, and any other number of things that Karima insists upon before we move. Maria right now is in jail with her uncle, who is in there on some sort of domestic dispute. And she's having terrible feelings of fear right now, what's going to happen. With Angela, she's been terrified of all the stuff going on in her life for the last 2 or 3 months, ever since she got back from France, a retreat in France, feeling fear, feeling totally sucked up by the mundane world, trying to make decisions as to where to live and what jobs to take, commuting 3 hours a day by train, bus, and bicycle to her job. So it's been holy hell for a lot of us. I don't know if anybody can tell us what's going on when it comes to the stars or anything like that, but I find it immensely amusing. Robert used to say, life gets interesting when you get old, and it does. Your body falls apart, your mind no longer works, you don't want to do anything. All you want to do is be left alone, more or less. But then Shakti comes and shocks you awake and takes you into a different dimension and a different world of energies, love, and bliss. And you keep presenting being sucked back into the mundane world by whatever situation you're in the mundane world. That's the state of our Sangha. I'm sure all of you have similar stories or recently have similar stories. So goes life. But today I wanted to talk about something everybody thinks they understand, but very few really understand. Vasilina came to understand it yesterday, and I was so happy to hear that. And here it is. Overall, the big picture is the only truth is that there is no truth. Beware even of this truth. I think we all know as a theory that the world we experience is constructed by our minds, and more specifically, by our language. It's filled with cause and effect, spatial dimensions, units of time, and everything is constructed, and we explain it to each other, we talk to each other, we make sense of each other with these assumptions in mind. And spiritual people tell us that all of this is imagination, a mind construct. Some dismiss anything in the mind because you can't touch it, you can't feel the mind. It's not an object. And so they say it doesn't really exist. But it does exist. And it fucks us all up. Robert used to say, the mind is not your friend. It truly isn't. Because the mind thinks it understands the world, but it doesn't. Let's go over this so that you can really understand it. Michael the other day said to me, but there are real facts. It's not all a matter of opinion. And he says, the fact that I walked out of this room is a fact. Okay, let's look at this. The only facts we can say are in the present. Anything in the past is suspect. It's a construct. It's an idea. We put together data and construct what happened in the past. The only things that really can be called facts are, for example, I look out my window and see an outdoor thermometer which says it's 57 degrees. Is that a fact? The only thing we can say for certain is when I look outside at my lead mercury, my mercury thermometer, it reads 57 degrees. But does that mean it's accurately portraying what the temperature is? The thermometer may not be accurate. It may be broken. My mother has, at her house, had two thermometers, one at the front door and one at the back door. The sun rose, I think it was in the back room, and therefore the temperature on that thermometer was higher during the morning than the temperature at the front door. The two thermometers disagreed depending on the whereabouts of the sun and the changing weather. We look at the thermometer out there and it says 57 degrees, but on the television, they say the temperature in Sun City is 63. Who's correct? Who's right? Because it was on television, it's more right than the thermometer outside my window, which may or may not be accurate. So, even such a simple fact as what is the temperature requires all kinds of suppositions and conclusions on our part, that our thermometer is accurate compared to other thermometers or to some standard, national standard or world standard. That just because it reads 57 degrees here now doesn't mean that other thermometers in the same place would read 57. Or the thermometer next door, whatever that reads, tells the temperature over there accurately. So even such a simple fact in the here and now of finding out what the temperature is really inconclusive as to truth. But we go into other facts, other theories like physics, which we've used to create highways and buildings through engineering in the H-bomb. Yet they're so general, the laws of physics, they have to be interpreted through mathematics in order to fit into certain situations. Physics, chemistry, biology are merely very abstract systems that can help us construct things, make an atom bomb, build a bridge. But is there truth in them? Is there truth in the equations? Well, Newtonian mechanics worked for 400 years until Einstein came along and said the observer must be taken into consideration in any construct about the laws of motion. And this changed everything. Newtonian mechanics applies only to very specific and rare cases. The same thing for quantum mechanics. It completely changes our view of the world. And things that the laws, supposed laws that govern the very small, are all based on mathematical conclusions, which are then proven by certain very arcane experiments. But then philosophers like to take the findings in quantum mechanics about the strange nature of reality and say it also holds true at our level, the macro level of human existence. It need not at all, but they like to talk that way. So now we have all kinds of theories about everything, and they're all inconsistent or relatively inconsistent. We have string theory, we have particle theory, classical particle theory, atomic physics. But nobody's ever really seen an atom. They've seen representations of atoms in experiments and so forth, and on TV tubes through complex electrical circuitry, etc., to represent an atom or a molecule, but we've never seen them directly. It's all supposition based on physical laws, supposedly, which are eternal. And in any event, physics, chemistry, biology only explain a very small part of our existence. It really doesn't explain how I can get up out of this chair and move into another room or give this talk to you. Here we have to go to metaphysics and spirituality to talk about spirit or talk about the life force or talk about Shakti or God's will. Nothing in human knowledge explains us and what makes us work, really. It explains how our bodies work and how neurons flow and how the heart works and supports our body through the blood, all these kind of complex biological and medical processes. But it doesn't explain us. It doesn't explain you listening to me now, how I make any sense to you or vice versa. Things of the spirit are not explainable, except in spiritual terms. And spiritual terms are almost meaningless. Concepts like God, Shakti, consciousness, awareness, they're all kind of abstract terms, especially as people on Facebook use them. They're not backed up by years and years of meditation and consideration of what these concepts mean, and more, even more, what they feel like. What does consciousness feel like? What does awareness feel like? What does bliss feel like? How does Shakti feel to you in your own body? And circulating in the room around you, and circulating between members of our Sangha. How does Shakti feel to you? Do you feel the bliss of Shakti? Is that meaningful to you? The only way you'll be liberated from the mundane world that most people live in is by giving up understanding altogether and becoming dumb as a rock, at least for some period of time, where you convert from thinking about the world and moving around and making actions in habitual conditioned sorts of ways based on your mind and what you've learned, is to become dumb as a rock and start feeling everything. Feel your breath. Feel your heart. Feel your gut. Just be still, sitting in a chair, and feel for yourself. Do any emotions arise? Feel the emotion. Feel your body. Is there tension anywhere? Is there pressure? Is there sensation? Do scans of your body, starting at the bottom of your feet and working upwards through your ankles, your calves and shin, your knee, your thigh, your pelvis, your gut, your heart, your throat, your third eye, your brain. Do those frequently, and do it listening to sacred music. Muktananda and Krishna Das are really good ways, because those chantings awaken the Kundalini in you and take you inwards to deeper parts of yourself. Today, because of all the stress, I feel mostly emptiness inside, filled with light, but emptiness. The body feeling sort of escapes me, and I'm lost in an emptiness. And yet I find peace there and a humor about the situation that I'm in right now, and those of other people that communicate with me, like Maria, Veselina, Angela, VJ, of course, Max and Michael and Stevie. It's a fucked up world unless you can feel the bliss of Shakti. And you can't feel her bliss until you totally realize the mind is lying to you and is talking about a reality that doesn't really exist, but is a hypothetical one, a map of our human experience. And the only way to really understand our human experience is to give up the mind and feel that experience directly in your gut, in your heart, and not talk about it, except when you want to communicate with others. Just feel your existence. Feel any pain in your body. Feel emotions as they arise. Feel your own loneliness. Feel your own desperation. Feel your own fears as they arise. Feel your anticipation, maybe fearful of what's going to happen in 1 or 2 or 3 weeks. Feel the fear you have about your health, for example, or about how you're going to make a living, or where you'll be living, or what kind of job you'll have. Feel the fear deeply and really get to know it. And then you can enjoy it. Enjoy it as much as you do bliss, or sex, or eating a good meal. So just feel everything. Right now I'm feeling into my deltoid muscles on both arms, one of which was hurt and the other not. And I feel emptiness in both of them, but the one on the right has a kind of pressure in it where the tissue has been bruised. I feel around in the rest of my body, in my heart area and gut, and it's all empty, but filled with light, the light of consciousness, which I've known for the last maybe 30 years. But you have to do this to yourselves, is become aware of your inner world. And I don't mean the world of dream and of visualization, but how your inner world really feels, how your body feels from the inside. Feel your heartbeat from the inside rather than finding it on your wrist or on your neck. Feel it from the inside. Feel your diaphragm raise and lower with your breathing. Feel the muscles in your chest and back expand and contract as your breathing goes. Feel your belly expand on the inhalation and the breath going all the way down to your genitals. Feel. 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 Not think, not visualize, not understand, but feel. And then something new opens to you. A whole new world is revealed to you once you make the transition from knowing everything and being so certain of everything, like Michael is about his politics, and everybody else is, like Angela is about the entities and the energies on one level, which conflicts with the Shakti that's felt when you have no mind. It's your knowledge that causes problems. If you live from your heart without your mind functioning very well, if you live from your gut without your heart functioning very well, if you live from your genitals without your heart functioning very well, what a blissful life you enter. But when you're too busy with the world, the mundane aspects of planning your week ahead, paying bills, moving a house sold somewhere, traveling, you get sucked into the mundane world and you feel used, exhausted, and on edge, irritable. It's very difficult to remain in bliss and emptiness, feeling the totality of your body, of your own sense of presence, that magnetic field inside and outside around us, that sort of is a direct feeling of the life force. It's so difficult to maintain that if you're busy in the world. And sometimes you just have to be busy in the world. It's required by life and situation, like Angela is now, like I am now, like Max and Michael are now. But when that busyness is over, just sit in a chair, preferably a recliner. This is better than the sitting full lotus, which gets you into emptiness and no mind states and disappearing states. But in a chair where you can fully feel your whole body and where you can move from time to time, because if you don't move, your body will disappear. There has to be some movement, otherwise, whatever you're observing disappears like your body. That's why Zen produces certain kinds of experiences and not others. That's why Zen doesn't talk about love and relationship, because it's into disappearing, into emptiness, and finding respite, finding rest in emptiness. Well, my way is to find yourself through loving others and being loved by others and feeling the Shakti of being in love. When you're truly in love, fully in love, where you want to sink to your knees and hold the feet of your beloved, you are ecstatic. And you can feel yourself as ecstasy itself. And you can feel your loved one as ecstasy herself, or vice versa, himself. Despite all the shit we're going through, I'm very happy to experience all these new experiences of stress, and yet trying to remain in a spiritual world of feeling the energies rather than the mundane stresses. Thank God I have Max and Michael here that are taking care of so much of the physical stuff. Otherwise, I'd be as stressed as anybody here. Feel. It's all about feeling. And the key to that learning how to feel like that is loving and being drenched in your own heart. When you can love another, there's so much ecstasy in that love that you can get to the place where you die for that love. It becomes such a great, great draw. It becomes so much of a draw that it draws God out to you. And God shows him or herself to you in the way that you wanted it best. Even though you didn't judge, Shakti knows how to show you herself, the life force, God, in a way that will utterly change your life. Many of us here are in the foothills to that great revelation, that great transformation. And they have an idiotic grin on their face. All the way from Germany, the idiot grins because he has no mind left. He's just feeling. Soon God will show him or herself to him in the way best for him, if not already has happened, as happening to Stevie. And other people here. I love you all. I wish you could feel that love. I wish you could feel it in yourself. To have love for somebody else so deeply that you don't care about yourself, only about that other person. Even if it's just for a day, it'll transform your life and put you on the path to God realization. To be totally committed and surrendered to another person. You'll never forget that feeling, because then you can encounter it later too, with respect to God, the life force within you and above you and around you, the universal life force of all living things that take part in that universal life force in a little way, in our little form. And in a sense, we all are that life force. And when you make that transition from thinking of yourself as a body to the being spirit or the life force or God, everything changes again. And things keep changing. Your understanding deepens, your experiences deepen, the bliss deepens, the love deepens. I know sometimes there are problems, and for a time it seems to lose its grip on you, and you're thrown back into the mundane. But eventually, you return to God, to that love, to that surrender, that desire for surrender, to throw oneself away to another. And how many here are willing to go that deep into love and surrender? This indeed is the quickest way. That loving, that surrender, combined with being totally aware of yourself, of the bliss inside of you, of the light inside of you, and all the sensations of your body and all the emotions that your personality can allow, then everything comes alive in you. Love brings you alive. Your own for another and the other's love back towards you. Love is the central method, but feeling overall is the result. And through that feeling, to become the life force, to become spirit and not body. Are there any questions? I can turn off the video now so that you can feel free to ask questions. They won't be recorded. And when it's posted, there'll be nothing in there about you. Are there any questions? Yes.